Hello, sixth graders, and welcome to today's lesson. Today I'm going to show you 4 of your paragraphs that could use some work and 4 that are really good examples of what we do want to do. So remember that our assignment was to make a claim and support it with 3 of Bud's rules. You're either going to argue that Bud uses his rule to thrive, and you did that by showing how he used 3 rules to thrive, or that Bud uses his rule to survive, and you would pick 3 rules to show how they survive. So here are the most common mistakes I found in your paragraphs. Some of you just summarize what the rule means. You tell me a rule, and then you tell me what that rule means and put it into your own words. I'm glad that you can do that, but that's not what this argument essay is really asking you to do. It's saying to do that and then to connect it to how Bud is using the rule. Some of you related the rule to how it could have helped Bud survive or thrive. The problem here is that it's how it could have, and it's not what actually happened in the text. You're saying that Bud could have used the rule if this happened, so that way this wouldn't have happened and then he would have thrived. But that's just making conjectures. It's not what actually happened. And then some of you related the rule to how it helps you survive or thrive. So you connected your own life to the rule and you said, this is how it's helping me, which I'm glad you can do too, but that's not what this essay is asking for. It wants you to talk about Bud. Okay? And then some of you actually combined these 2 things and you argued about how it could help you thrive or survive. All right, here is a reminder of how we can actually think to determine how these rules have helped him. Think about each rule that you picked. Could the rule that you picked could be how he used it when he said the rule in the first time. What was happening in the story when he said the rule the first time? Did it help him survive or thrive right at that moment? Or maybe it didn't then, but he later on in the story, he uses the rule to survive or thrive. And he might not even mention the rule, but because of his actions, you can say he's doing what the rule said. Or finally, you can look at a time that he goes against his own rule. Sometimes he says one thing and then his actions actually show something very different from what he said you should do. So here are the first examples. I'm going to show you my first 4 examples are examples that need some work. I want you to think about which of those 3 types of scenarios of when we do it wrong, some mistakes we were making, what mistake is being made here. One of Bud's rules is when your parent calls you in a soft voice, be careful, they might want you to do something. All right, they introduced the rule, although they didn't say where the rule is from, they did introduce it. I think this rule helps, we want to get rid of the apostrophe there, helps Bud thrive because it most likely, I think they wanted to say it most likely means they want you to do something like clean or do the dishes, and doing stuff like that will help you when you grow up because you will have to clean and do the dishes. So they're talking about that if a parent wants you to do something, it's okay because they're going to help you. That really is going to help you learn how to do the dishes and stuff. I found text evidence on page Rule 87. When an adult tells you that they need your help, don't get tricked. They just want you to fetch something for them. This is why I think thrive. Okay, so now they made an effort to take a time in Bud's life where he was asked to go fetch something for them. Go a step further and talk about what actually happened there that he had to fetch in his life, of how that helped him thrive. And there, you could do that there. There is some room for that. But the way that it's left right now, it's focusing more on this hypothetical of a parent asking you to clean or do your dishes. So what mistake is that out of these? Okay, it's relating it to how it would help you, him or her, whoever wrote this, survive. Here's the next example. In the novel Bud Not Buddy, Rule 63 on page 157 says, never ever say anything bad about someone you don't know, especially around strangers. That if you say anything around a stranger and if he talks about anyone in a bad way, he is dead and could get kidnapped. So they started, here's the quote, especially around strangers, and then here they start to talk about that in their own language. If he could talk about anyone in a bad way, he is dead and could get kidnapped. But no matter if he got kidnapped or not, he would still be dead and gone. If you say anything bad about someone, and if a stranger is standing there and they are the person that you are talking about, then they can kidnap you and bring you to that person. The person that Bud was talking about will kill Bud, and Bud will be dead equals gone forever. So now they're referencing another rule, which is kind of cool, except for they never finished explaining the first rule. If Bud gets killed, then Bud will not be able to see his father, and his father will never get to know him, and none of them will know Bud. Okay, all of that's true if he were to get killed, but in the story, does he get kidnapped or killed? No. So then you can't use that as your text evidence. You have to talk about how he used this rule about not saying anything bad because you don't know who they know to survive or thrive in the story. When he talks about this, right here, when he brings this up, the thing that's going on is a great example of how that helped him thrive. He didn't want to talk bad about someone because he wasn't sure if they knew his father. So use that as an example to talk about this one. All right, when you wake up around strange people, pretend to be sleeping and think what to do. They did not introduce the rule. We don't know where this comes from. But now they're going to explain what rule is from. So you want to switch the order of that. Using Rule 29 helps Bud survive because you don't know what the people around you are like because you don't know them. Also, it helps him survive because they could hurt you and possibly kill you, and the whole reason to survive is to stay alive. Okay, that is true, but this is speaking in hypotheticals again. So you can't say what could have happened. You need to use evidence of what did happen. So talk about specific times that he is around, he's sleeping, he wakes up, like when he was in the car, and he pretends to stay sleeping, and how that helps him survive or thrive. Because really, if you just pretended to stay sleeping and someone wanted to kill you, they could kill you. All right. Rule 83, this is the last one of an example of what we can learn from. Rule number 83 of Bud Caldwell's Rules and Things is if an adult tells you not to worry and you weren't worried before, you better hurry up and start because you're already running late. What this means is if an adult is trying to be calm, it means something bad is happening. It also means what they're saying is very important. In chapter 15 of the novel, Bud Not Buddy, we are introduced to Rule 28. As Bud said, gone equals dead. So now again, they jumped into a second rule without explaining how the first rule relates to Bud. They summarized it, they said what it means, but they haven't connected it to how Bud used it. And they're going to do the same thing for that. Let's go into some good examples. Okay, here's some examples that we can learn from that they did a really good job. In chapter 2 of the novel, Bud Not Buddy, it introduces rule number 3, comma. Now we have the quote. If you got to lie, make sure it's simple and easy to remember. Period, end quote. Using rule 3 helps Bud thrive. There's the claim, okay? It helps him thrive because you don't want to be telling a lie and freeze up and get caught in a lie, so it will help you. Okay, now in this case, they're talking in hypotheticals again. In the text, an example is that when he was at the Amozzi's house, Todd blamed him for everything and lied, so Bud lied, but he remembered every lie. Okay, so they're talking about how Bud used his rule, and so he didn't get caught. Bud's lie was that he lied that Herman E. Calloway was his father. Okay, this is a whole other example, and it's a good one. They should go on and explain how that lie helps him thrive, that he could remember that lie. Here's another good example. In the novel, Bud Not Buddy, we are introduced to rule number 118 in chapter 2. It says, you have to give adults something that they think they can use to hurt you by taking it away. That way they may not take something away that you really do want. Unless they're crazy or real stupid, they won't take everything because if they did, they wouldn't have anything to hold over your head to hurt you with later. Okay, it's a long quote. They could cut that down and only include some of it. Bud cares about his suitcase more than anything else in the world. He did not want the Amozzis to know this because he was afraid that they would keep it forever. This is the context of what happened when he said this rule, and it's how he applied it. Okay? Instead, he pretended that he did not want to go back to the home, so that way they might send him there instead of taking his suitcase. This helped him thrive, there's the claim, because he could keep his suitcase and did not mind going back to the home. Yay! Okay, they followed all the parts. Here's another great example. In the book, Bud Not Buddy, there are rules Bud Caldwell lives by to have a funner life and make a better liar out of yourself. On page 27, we are introduced to rule number 328 as Bud remembers his rule because of the situation he's in. They're doing a good job of setting up the rule. When you make up your mind to do something, hurry up and do it. If you wait, you might talk yourself out of what you wanted in the first place. Bud uses, okay, so this quote thing needs to be right next to the period and then a space. Bud used this rule because he was locked in the Amozie's shed and there was a bat he was going to swing at with a rake. Bud using the rake in the shed helped him escape and get free. This eventually helped Bud find his dad later on in the story. I think this helps him thrive because he develops better characteristics and helps him grow up with his grandpa also. Bud can make a strong relationship with Hermione Calloway. Later on in the story, Bud comes across another situation where he remembers one of his rules, and now they're introducing another rule. So this should be its own paragraph. But they did a great job of explaining how Bud uses that rule. All right, here's my last example for you to look at. We are introduced to Rule 83 as Bud has a lady. I'm only correcting like some of the problems in capitalization, punctuation, and grammar here. Whoever's essays these are, you will want to go back and reread these because there's a lot of grammatical mistakes throughout your essays. As Bud has a lady tell her not to worry. If an adult tells you not to worry and you weren't worried before, you better hurry up and start because you're already running late. Using rule number 83 helps Bud thrive. There's the claim. This helps him thrive because, now they're going to explain it, it gives him a sign that something bad is going to happen. For example, when he was in the car with Lefty Lewis, Lefty said, "Do not worry, Bud." This lets him know that he should be ready and prepared for any bad news from Lefty Lewis or anybody else. He used his time in the car to come up with a plan just in case things went bad. All right, there are some examples, 4 of what not to do, 4 of what to do. I hope that helps you. Go ahead and get to work.